Welcome back to Open BXRx. Here in the Bronx, we're approaching yet another month where Black and Latino tenants advocate for rent cancellations and relief during COVID-19 due to job loss. So far, calls for rent cancellation have not been answered, but the Rent Guidelines Board has recently approved the lowest rent freeze adjustments in the history, and tenant movement has kept the eviction moratorium in effect. What does all of this mean for tenants? Joining us now to give us some updates is Kim Statuto of Community Action for Safe Apartments here in the Bronx. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Kim Statuto. I'm a CASA leader, and I'm also a leader of my tenant association at 1515 Selwyn Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10457. Um, Thank you for having me. Yes, we did get a rent freeze for 1 year, which means they're not going to increase our rent in September or October. And if somebody is opting for a 2 year lease, they'll get 1 year with no rent increase. And the second year, I think it's 1 to 3% but I really believe it's 1%.
Kim, what are your thoughts on the 1% increase in rent, and how will this increase impact tenants currently struggling due to the pandemic?
Well, of course, it's going to affect people. That's if they're opting for the 2 year lease. Hopefully, within 2 years, we'll see this shift change and it won't be that bad. But right now, they won't get a rent increase from, I think it's October until next year, September. If they opt for the 2 year lease, they will get that 1% increase. But right now, a 1% increase is not that bad. Not that bad compared to what we could have gotten. But any increase at this time is bad because people are struggling and hurting, and they are not financially stable to even look at an increase yet.
Kim, CASA leaders such as yourself are always on the front lines representing tenants. And most recently, you were at a rent strike and protest demonstration at a Bronx housing court here. What happened there? And can you please tell us about the ongoing rent strikes and protest demonstrations going on here in the Bronx?
Sure. Great question. Monday, we were at Bronx Housing Court because, as you know, Monday, the eviction moratorium was supposed to end. We got an extension until July 7th. Landlords' attorneys were lined up to start filing papers against tenants that haven't paid rent so that they can start their eviction process. They got an extension. We got an extension until July 7th, meaning no landlord can evict you right now. They can start filing again July 7th, but not through housing court because housing court refuses to open until pandemic or health issues are met. So, but landlords are going to have the opportunity to file these papers online. And how that's going to look, we don't even know. Buildings that are involved in rent strike, usually a rent strike comes about when you're trying to get the attention of the landlord. So come to the table and talk to your tenants and find out what's going on. My building is on a rent strike because we're trying to get our landlord to come back and talk to us and let us know what's going on as far as repairs. How is he maintaining the building or not maintaining the building, and hear the struggles from the tenants.
Right. And I also wanted to speak, Kim, about the relationship between housing justice and racial justice. As we said earlier, the majority of residents who lost their jobs are now struggling with their rent, and they're Black and Latino. Can you just tell me about the relationship between the two and like the correlation with the movements going on nationwide, apparently, as well?
Housing justice and racial justice goes hand in hand. Let's talk about tenants or people that are looking for apartments and don't have a great credit score. They're being denied housing because their credit score is not up to par. And the tenant is the landlord is like, okay, well, they seem like a risk because their credit score is not that great. But you done paid application fee, background fee, credit check fees. You understand what I'm saying? And that's a fee that they're profiting off of, and then they still don't offer you the apartment. So it is a form of discrimination against you just because you don't have a perfect credit score. Just because I don't have a perfect credit score doesn't mean I don't pay my rent, doesn't mean that I'm a bad tenant, doesn't mean that I'm going to mess up your apartment, doesn't mean because of the color of my skin I'm going to be different than the person with an 800 credit score, if you can relate that together.
Right. And thank you, Kim, for breaking down earlier what's going on with the 6-3 vote that the RGB made. I just want to define the RGB for our viewers before getting into the next question. The RGB, as seen on screen, is a 9-member group that is in charge of determining yearly rent adjustments to the roughly 1 million rent-stabilized apartments in New York City. They have been meeting remotely due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Kim, I just want to ask, do you expect an increase in cases flooding recently partially reopened housing courts? And what is going to happen next once those housing courts start opening slowly?
Well, right now and again, like I said, we're on hold and pause until July 7th as far as anything happening. Housing courts are not opening. They don't feel that it is safe for their workers to be around crowds of people. So housing courts are not really opening just yet. They've pulled that back. But eventually we're going to be looking at what's going to happen when they start opening. We've made a list of demands on what it should look like besides language justice, health, um, health security reasons. What are you going to do in that aspect? They haven't met those demands yet. So why are you pushing people into a housing court crowded, full of people that could possibly infect others and their communities when they come back? So right now, from my understanding, housing court will not be opening back up just yet, even past the July 7th eviction moratorium deadline.
Right. Thank you, Kim. I just wanted to put the scenario out there. You kind of answered this question already, but I just wanted to put the scenario that I spoke about before. Let's say that I'm a person who has been laid off from my job due to COVID-19. I'm experiencing financial hardship, never heard back from unemployment like many other people. I got one stimulus check to help me pay for food, and I haven't been able to pay my rent. I decide to go on a rent strike. Can my landlord go to court and hit me with back charges, an accumulation of the rent that I haven't paid, and also the current rent? Is that something that will happen frequently, Kim?
That will happen frequently. Remember, we never got a cancel rent. Cancel rent would have ended any type of back payments owed to a landlord. We've only got an eviction moratorium. We didn't get a relief on our rent. Landlords are still expecting their rent, and they can take you into court for back rent, forward rent, and late fees. Um, Services that might be available to help one is social services. But if you have a pending unemployment case, just because you haven't received it yet doesn't mean you're not going to see it. So more than likely, social services will deny the case because they see that you have a pending unemployment case. And they will basically tell you, oh, they're just going to have to wait until your unemployment case is decided upon. And you'll come back to us with word whether it is in your favor or not in your favor. So flipped with a you're hit with a double whammy. Yes, I'm going to be charged court fees, late fees, and back rent, and any rent owed forward.
Mm.
Exactly.
All righty. Thank you, Kim. Just one last thing. Could you please share any helpful tenant rights for our viewers, things that tenants should be aware of at this time before we close out?
Tactics that landlords are using now and that we're hearing as they're trying to gain access to their tenants' email addresses to send them notices demanding rent. That is illegal. They are not supposed to be doing that.
How can people stay in touch with CASA and also get more assistance with tenant rights?
To get in touch with CASA, you can go to www.casa.casapower. One word, www.casapower.org. Or you can reach Giraldi at CASA at 917-306 3320, or Pablo at CASA 917-753-6996. Also, you can research Bronx Legal Services. They can also answer questions for tenants that are having issues.
Kim, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for joining us and for giving us this update for tenants.
Thank you for having me, and I hope it gives you the information you need.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Folks,
Thank you.
You can follow at Casa Bronx and at Right to Counsel NYC on Instagram for tenant updates here in New York. Open BXRX will be right back.